Hey guys, thanks for joining. Adventure is absolutely necessary, and if it all happened according to plan, it wouldn't be an adventure. So, hey, we believe wholeheartedly that you need to get out there, have a connection with nature, and explore. If you do that, you need to be prepared for what could happen. And today, what we're going through is how to remove a large off-road mud terrain tire from a rim if you're off-grid using basic hand tools and low air pressure. Now, the last thing I would ever recommend is doing this. If you can avoid it, do so. But man, if you got to remove this tire from the rim and do a repair, bust camp. So just take your time if you can. Let the folks know, the folks that you're with. If you're with folks, hey, this is going to take some time. And if you can break camp, do it and take your time to do this. Because it is involved, we're going to go through quite a bit of detail so you know how to do it yourself. Now, look at my rim. Okay, pretty rims that are expensive. Should you get them? It absolutely depends. Do you plan on using your rig off-grid to find those destinations and locations that are absolutely epic that very few people go to? If the answer is yes, there is no reason for a pretty rim. My rims are the stock rims, and I hit them with Rust-Oleum satin once a year. But your rims, besides your tires, your rims are often going to take the brunt of the abuse if you use your rig for overlanding. So save your money, buy some other essential equipment that's going to help you be prepared out there in nature. So that's the first thing I want to cover is, you don't need nice looking rims on a utility built serious exploration vehicle. Now, why would you want to take the tire off the rim? For most repairs, you don't need to. You've got a puncture in the tread. You'll use a sticky rope repair, and I've got that in another video. Maybe I'll link it in the details. But the reason you would want to take the tire off the rim is because you have a 1 inch or more, you have a nice size gash in your tire, and you are immobile because you've got no air in your tire and you need to repair a gash. Now this happens. In the Mojave desert, there's volcanic rock, there's all kinds of things out in the outdoors that want to puncture your tire, and it happens very quickly. So if you have a big gash in the sidewall tire, you're gonna have to remove the tire, you're gonna have to stitch the tire closed and make a complex repair. Now, I know some folks are gonna say, never repair a tire sidewall, that's dangerous. Well, I'll tell you what, if you're off grid and your only option is to stuff this tire full of mud and grass, stitch it together and limp off the trail, that's what you're going to do to get back to civilization. Now you can repair a sidewall gash so that the tire holds air, and that's what you would be doing, and you would need to pull the tire off the rim in order to get you back to civilization. All right, let's jump right in. Let's see how we use the high lift jack to take the tire off the bead so that we can then remove the rim. Let's get right to it. All right, now getting a big tire, especially in mud terrain, off the bead, popping the bead, is probably one of the things that requires the greatest amount of force. It's something you are going to have to plan for. All this stuff I have in the vehicle at all times. So I'm going to use my high lift jack, and this is also from High Lift. It's called the LiftMate. The LiftMate allows me to get a good hold on this ARB bumper, and I'll use the jack pressure to slip the tire off the bead. You want to be extremely careful and make sure that when you use accessories like this, you use them according to the instructions. This has got a safety retaining nut that you install prior to applying pressure, and we're going to make sure that we have a good solid setup and we use it the right way. All right, let's do it. All right, now we took all safety precautions. We were very careful. We know how to use a high lift jack properly, and we managed to pop the bead off the rim. You might be able to do one side, but do yourself a favor. Go ahead and do that technique on both sides so that you pop the front and the back off. A couple of things. You saw me mark the tire. Note, I've got a grease pencil mark or some kind of mark. If you got to use a stick, that's just fine. But I lined it up with the valve stem. The reason for that is if you do a really good repair and you're able to do some road miles, you want the tire to be in balance. When you got the tire at the shop, it was balanced for the rim, and this is the proper alignment with the weights that are on your wheel. So you want to put it back in the same spot so you don't go wobbling down the road, and so it remains in balance. That's what that mark is for. The wheel has a drop center that allows you to get the spacing that you need in order to remove the tire from the rim and put it back on. Once I have the tire off, I'll show you what that drop center looks like. But that's what we're going to do next. We're going to pull the tire, or we're going to pull the rim out of the tire and fully separate the two. Let's get to it. All right, now the fun really starts. First of all, let's talk about a couple of things you need. Windex. You need Windex to lubricate the tire, and that makes it easier to remove the tire off the rim. In fact, I'd say it's essential. If you don't have Windex out there off grid, use whatever lubrication you have, spit on it if you have to. Now the second thing you'll need are tire spoons, a pair. This one is a $5 special from Harbor Freight. It's fine. It does the job, but at least one of them is going to need to be a deluxe tire spoon so that you have this S-shaped hook on the end. This is also sturdy enough that you can put your high lift jack handle over the end if you need a little bit more leverage. I'll put the link in the description where you can get a deluxe tire iron, but at least one of them needs to be this, and you'll see the S-shaped hook on the end. All right, so to get this started, I'm going to need to get one side into that drop center on the wheel that I was talking about. And that gives you the length to pull the tire up over the opposite end. All right, let's do that. All right, we got the first bead off the rim. Now what I'm going to do is raise the tire upright. I'm going to put the second bead in that drop center of the wheel that we talked about earlier, so I have enough room to use those tire spoons in similar fashion and pull the wheel completely off the tire. All right, that was easy. No, it wasn't. There's a couple of different ways to do it. Now that you see the wheel, you can see that drop center I'm talking about. And if you forget which side of the wheel comes out first, which side of the tire comes out first, just remember the whole purpose of the drop center is to get one side of the bead into the drop center to give you the maximum length so that you can pull the rim out of the tire. You don't always have to remove the tire completely off the rim. If you're just going to be using a patch, or if, you know, I've heard of folks throwing in branches, twigs, and mud to get themselves off the trail, you can get away with just pulling one bead off, separating it enough for you to get inside the tire, do what you need to do, and then seat the bead or put the tire back on the rim. So you don't always need to fully remove it, but now we've got the tire taken completely off the rim, and we can do whatever we need in terms of repair, including stitching up that sidewall. Now, before you put the tire back on the rim, clean the bead seat. That's going to be essential in a bit when we reseat the bead with low air pressure. Again, we're going to be using a low pressure air system to reseat the bead, and in order to do that, you need a tight seal between the bead and the bead seat, so make sure that's clean. Now, let's put it back on. All right, I put the wheel and tire like this on purpose. I have it positioned in a way that I can put this rim against the back bead seat so that it creates a seal. The key to reseating the bead with low air pressure is to get a good seal before you start airing up the tire. And remember, there's no valve stem in here, so we have maximum airflow from our low pressure compressor. So I put a little bit of Windex on here. It'll allow me to move the wheel around as I introduce air, create the seal, and as long as I create a seal, the bead will pop back on to the mud terrain. There are different ways to do it. If you have a CO2 container, which is high flow, what you can do is put a ratchet strap around the tire, cinch it down, as much as you can, and then introduce air at a high rate of speed that will pop the bead into place. That's a safe way of doing it. All right, so let's do it. Now, once I start introducing air, I'm going to listen for where the leaks are and see if I can muscle the wheel into place if I need to. So the Windex helps because it'll create bubbles where the air is coming out. All right, this tire is now at 32 PSI for now. That's good enough to get me off the trail. And just in review, we did this with low pressure and hand tools. Again, if you have the luxury, break camp because it's going to take you a little while, but let's just go through what we used real quick. This is ARB tire repair kit. We do recommend it. I'll have links for all this stuff in the description. Has a number of tire repair tools, but most importantly for the job that we did today, it's got a valve stem remover. You got to remove the valve stem. Then we used the handle of the high lift for a little extra leverage on the deluxe tire iron. We have a standard tire iron. We have a motivator here, relatively small, but you need to have one of those in your rigs. We used a grease pencil to mark where the valve stem was. We have the low pressure air compressor and Windex for, we used it throughout the job to make removal and installation easier. If your life depends on it, it doesn't need to be Windex, but I'm not going to go into that. Anything you can use, and that's basically it. I hope this video is helpful. There aren't very many videos out there on YouTube for this job, and that's because it's a hard one. It's a difficult task, but you need to know how to do it. Now, as a reminder, Overland Bound members throw classes and events and get-togethers so that you can see some of the expedition vehicles somewhere in your area. If you could use a little bit more adventure in your life, you can get some hands-on experience doing this job. There's no replacement for hands-on experience. Do it in a safe setting before you rely on it in the trail. Go over to overlandbound.com and you'll find information about membership. We'd love to have you join us, and hopefully we'll see you on the trail. All right, you guys, outfit, explore. I'll see you in the next video.